I'm Arthur Moats, and I'm here to tell you about my new book, The Moats Theory of Life. If you haven't picked up a copy yet, I strongly encourage you to. This book not only is a fun read, but it's a guide to helping you become a person of impact and inspiration. If you are ready to take the next step to improving not only your life, but those around you as well, go get a copy of The Moats Theory of Life, and it's available at moatstheory.com.
What's up? What's up? It's the Arthur Moats Experience with Deke. I'm Arthur Moats, and that's my main man, Deke.
What's up, bro?
Uh-oh, we got your boy. We got news.
It's official.
I'm excited for you, baby. It's
Thanks,
official. Yes, indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, Ben Roethlisberger officially under contract for the 2021 season, at least for right now. For those that don't know, probably within the past hour, the details just released that Ben Roethlisberger has signed his one-year contract, or at least signed a contract to play with the Steelers in 2021. The pay for 2021 will be 1 year, $14 million. That is a $5 million reduction in the salary that Ben was supposed to get coming into the season. So he did take a $5 million pay cut for this. In terms of the details of it, we are hearing that it's a 5-year deal, but 4 years are avoidable. So essentially, it's the 1 year, $14 million, and then after that, the Steelers can have a clean break, clean split in 2022. And in terms of how this works out, because a lot of numbers are being floated around right now, it's still fairly new from a detailed standpoint. It looks like the Steelers are going to be able to save $15 million from a cap standpoint this year in 2021. And the way they're doing that with Ben's contract, because obviously if you did the simple math, man, it was at 22.5, then you add the 19 million that he was supposed to get, you get the 41.5. So you ask yourself, well, how do you save 15 million if he only took a $5 million pay cut? The way it works is like this: because the Steelers are essentially going to put 90% of this contract in signing bonus. So the way the structure is, I believe he gets 12.975 as a signing bonus. So with signing bonuses, you can spread that throughout the different years. It doesn't have to account on that cap that season. So that's the big portion of it. Then for Ben, his base salary this year, in terms of what he will make on a week-to-week basis during the season, is only $1 million. So that's how you get the 1.075. You add that number up with the signing bonus. That's how you get the $14 million that he's going to be playing for. And then from there, they have, let's see, what was it? Oh, and then with the voidable years, in terms of how they spread it out, that's ultimately how they were able to create the $15 million in $15 million in additional cap space for this season. So very nuanced in terms of the deal, still very fresh in terms of information about it coming out. But knee-jerk reaction. For me, I don't hate it. I think that, this is something that is beneficial for both parties right now, right? When we think about Ben, we know, we've already said this, he gives this team the best chance to win right now. Now, to what extent that is, I think that's, where a lot of people might differ in terms of their perspective of Ben. But based on the quarterbacks that are on the roster, Mason Rudolph, Dwayne Haskins, Ben is better than those guys. Not even a debate about that. So I do think that, hey, man, knowing that the Steelers don't want to have to do a hard reset and go through a hard rebuild, this made the most sense from that standpoint now that we see the numbers coming out. But, I got to hear from you, my man. I know you over there chomping at the bit. I can't wait.
I'm humble about it, to be honest with you. Because
so I'm humble about it.
I thought the news that came out, was it a week and a half ago? Mm-hmm. About whenever Ben gave his little note, or his agent did, and then Art Rooney came out and said, we would love to have Ben back. I was probably more amped up at that point because I thought it was a done deal. At this point, it was just all formality to me because it seemed like everything was pointing in that direction. So I'm just glad that it's official. I am very excited. I'm pumped because now I don't know what the deal is because I was looking into the deal hoping like, oh man, is there a chance extension here, 2022 maybe? You talk about the cash being spread out over however many years. So I'm like, oh dude, there might even be a chance here for an extension. But it doesn't sound like that from what you just said. I'm glad Ben's back, though, at least this year, because his contract initially was just throughout this year anyway, but there was talk about him coming back or not for this final season. So I'm happy he's back for this. I'm hoping he balls out, and then he gets a chance for 2022 and beyond. But we will see what happens there. We'll just let this season take care of business. I am very pumped, though.
Absolutely. And I think we all would agree, if he balls out, nobody wants to get rid of him if he's playing at a high level. You want to get rid of him if he's playing at a not high level, but he has a very high cap hit. That's the big issue. So as long as he plays up to par and he plays like he's supposed to play, it won't be an issue. But the beauty is we're going to get a chance to see that come the season time. But I think, to me, man, this is, like I said, a really good step, But I guess what we're all going to be dealing with right now, and this is the elephant in the room, does this move in terms of bringing Ben back make this team legit Super Bowl contenders? Or is this a lateral move, meaning that you're at least going to win 12 games, win the division, host a playoff game? Or is this a step in the wrong direction, meaning that you're going to be, you're going to finish worse than what you did last year? I think that's the thing that a lot of people are dealing with amongst Steeler Nation. And we saw that multiple times throughout this whole process in terms of how people were viewing him in terms of, hey, man, I want him to get cut. I don't want him out here anymore. Trade him, get rid of him. You had the other side where it's more like you. Man, if Ben's here, it doesn't matter who we have out there. He's their guy. So that, to me, is going to be the more pressing question now, Does this team become Super Bowl contenders? Is it because the expectation in Pittsburgh, it's not about winning divisions. It's not about making an AFC championship. It's not even about making it to the Super Bowl. It's about winning the Super Bowl. And if this isn't bringing us closer to that, that's that. To me, it just makes me wonder, like, what exactly are we trying to accomplish here,
So what are you thinking then? Which way are you leaning?
For me, I think it's lateral at best. But I've been vocal about this throughout this offseason, just the way the roster is constructed and the pieces that are going to be gone that you're going to have to replace. I don't think that they're going to be able to properly do that through draft or free agency to the level that is going to need to be done. So I think at best is lateral, meaning you win 12 games, because that's the standard right now, right? They came off of winning 12 games. So if you don't win your 12 games, to me, that we got an issue here, right? And then obviously we know how the playoffs went in terms of getting knocked out in the wild card round. I think that this team could potentially not make the playoffs, but I could also see them getting beat in the division round. Like, I think that they are that just widespread in terms of you see some talent, but you also know that some of your other talent is a little bit aged, right? In terms of you guys like David DeCastro, right? He's a little bit up there now. So when I think of that, it just makes me wonder, like, how am I going to get more out of these people and I'm going to have less around them, right? Because we know, even though Ben is taking the $5 million pay cut, even though it has created, an extra $15 million that we're able to help get off the books, it still is just getting us in compliance with the cap. That's the thing. It's not like this created a brand new, we're 15 minutes in the green now. 15 million in the green. It was like, no, we were still getting out of the red just to get to where we are right now. So it's not like we're going to have these resources to just go out and, all right, we're going to fill this center spot. We're going to fill this guard spot. We're going to check out this left tackle spot. All right, we're going to get this inside line. We're going to get this outside linebacker. I don't see that happening. And along with the fact that we know cuts are going to have to happen as well. Two names that keep popping up, not even two, three names that keep popping up that we're going to hear a lot about either this weekend or early next week because of the deadline of the new league year starting on March 15th. Vince Williams, Joe Hayden, and Steven Nelson. Those are three starters. But potentially two of those three could be gone because of the cap scenario. So to me, that's why I just think this is lateral at best, because you're going to have a lot of pieces offensively and defensively that you're going to have to replace and not a ton of resources to do it with. So
with those three names, though, does that mean we bring back Bud and Juju? Let's say two of those three names.
It's still, no.
Because right now, based on, if we're saying $15 million in cap space, this deal has saved. We were at -7 before that. Are we simply +8 right now? And then if we make some of those moves, are we in like the double digit range of like 20, 25 million in cap space?
I mean, I would hope that it works out like that. But then when we still go back to it, you're talking about replacing three starters defensively for one in terms of Bud Dupree, right? That's not good math. Then you talk about on the offense end, even if you were to be able to pay, because you're not going to pay Bud and Juju, it's one or the other. So you're either getting Bud back, but you're going to lose your starting inside linebacker, potentially one or two of your starting corners. Juju's going to be gone as well. Now, granted, he's more of a high end too, but he still was very impactful for that offense
No,
last
definitely.
year.
We don't want to lose
Those are
Juju,
major
but it is
pieces
what
right
it
there.
is.
Right, but those are major pieces. You still got to address your running back issue, regardless if you're doing it in the draft or free agency. You still have to figure out a way to do that. And that hasn't even talked. We haven't even talked about the O-line or what you want to do at tight end. So to me, I just, even if it were to help get one of those guys back, I just think that it's still going to be that you're losing too many quality pieces. And talented young guys don't just grow on trees. You know what I mean? Like, you get lucky every once in a while, but it's plenty of times where that doesn't happen, where your Chase Claypool doesn't come in and perform like Chase Claypool. You know, we've seen that before. We've seen where your first, second, or third round picks, it takes them a year or two to develop. That and understanding that, that's the biggest reason why I just don't think that they're going to be improved next year compared to what we saw this year. But what do you think, though, man?
Well, in terms of next year, yeah, I think we're fine. I think we'll be Super Bowl contenders for all the things that you said before. If we got Ben back, I think we'll be good. And I think the young talent, too, if you talk about Claypool, you talk about Deontay Johnson, combined with some of the veterans that we have, like if the young talent can improve a little bit, maybe make up for some of the losses we might have, and then the veterans stay the same, or even, like, dude, our veterans played bad in that Cleveland game. Like, we were not expecting TJ Watt, Stephon Tuitt, and Cam Hayward to play like that. So if they play like they normally do throughout the whole season and how we expect them to, plus some of the young talent improves, then we might have some holes here and there, but what team doesn't at this point? Like even
go ahead. No, go ahead. My bad.
Well, so there's that. But so if we didn't have Ben though this year, if we're talking if you're talking just like a lateral move, we go to 12 wins. If we didn't have Ben, we'd be even worse though. And I don't think this really screws us up for future years, Ben or not.
I think the biggest thing is it prolongs the inevitable. I don't think that this team was going to be a Super Bowl contender if Ben was the quarterback this year, or if he wasn't, barring some type of crazy deal, right? A Deshaun Watson, Russell Wilson coming here. Outside of something like that, I don't think there was a quarterback that you were going to draft or that you were going to be able to sign in free agency that was going to make this team a Super Bowl contender next year, just because of the various pieces that I've already listed out that we're going to be losing offensively and defensively. It's hard when you're losing talent like that, and you still ran into issues last year towards the end of the year. We saw these issues popping up from a depth standpoint, from an injury standpoint. It can't continue to look like that or be less than that and expect more from it. But that's in theory what we're going to be doing based on how it is right now, because we're going to start subtracting starters. That's what we're about to start doing to continue to get this cap where it needs to be. But we're not going to be adding quality pieces in return. We're going to be bargain shopping. I mean, when you bargain shop, you get what you get right there, versus if you pay for high-end talent, you get what you get when you take that method as well. They're just in that scenario right now because of the numbers. That's the beauty and the gift and the curse of the salary cap, right? It makes you have to make tough decisions. It makes you have to try to, save it on this end and spend a little more over here. You just hope that the guys you spend a little bit more on can do a lot more to raise the play and raise the level of productivity of those lower paid guys. At this stage in Ben's career, I personally am skeptical I don't think that he's capable of doing that consistently throughout a whole season. I think he'll have his stretches where he's able to do it for a couple of games here and there, but as a whole, I don't think he's able to do it for what it's going to take for them to win a Super Bowl.
So let's say with Juju, now I guess the thing we're thinking of is like Juju, Bud, what other players, maybe like Mike Hilton, Cam Sutton. No. Is there another player that you could see maybe the Steelers having around for 4 or 5 years, Ben or not, like just as a staple? I would say Bud's probably the only one that you would want. Like, I don't know if I'd want to be paying Juju double digits if we have Ben back or not the next however many years.
To say, I agree with
at that amount. You know what I mean?
Ben, I would say Ben, Cam Sutton. You can make a case for Mike Hilton. For me, I like my little guys to be able to cover more. I'd rather you are better at coverage than the blitzing element of it. That's me personally. Some people are the reverse of that. Some people would prefer Mike Hilton over Cam Sutton. It's just personal preference. But if it's not, one of those three guys in terms of Bud, Cam, or Hilton, I'm with you. I don't think any of those guys, are the answer, or the people that we want to build around or have around
or spend
for
a
the next
lot of
4
money.
years if there's no Ben. Absolutely. Because, it just doesn't make good sense from a business standpoint. Those guys by themselves aren't going to be able to do it like that. But the reason why it's different in terms of, this year, obviously, because Ben has the new contract now, but the biggest thing would have been the money that you could have used to, okay, if we're not going to get, somebody in free agency, we draft as a guy at 24. Cool. But the money that we saved by cutting Ben, that's what you would have spent to bolster your receiver, bolster your O-line, bolster that running game. Like, you would do it that way typically. So now they're going to have to really rely on the draft and, like I said, bargain shopping and in free agency. So we'll see how that works out for them. They were able to give us 2 surprises last year. Now, here we are 12 months later. It'll be interesting to hear how people would grade the moves of them signing Derek Watt to the deal that they signed him to.
Oh, it was
and them
terrible
signing
at the
Eric
time.
Ebron.
We were talking about that. That was bad.
Right. But then even Eric Ebron's deal, like, if you look at it 12 months later, how do people feel about that in terms of his cap hit versus his productivity? We know that he has a very high ceiling, but we've seen, the floor that he has in terms of not very consistent from a catching standpoint. We knew that coming into the season. For some reason, all of us forgot that because he was in the black and gold. We thought it would magically disappear. And then when those issues started to arise again, we were like, whoa, what's going on? He never drops it. And it's like, come on, man, he does. He definitely does. So that's another thing where you might be looking and saying, well, all right, should we potentially make some moves here? I mean, but you're not going to be able to do these things right now. So that's the big thing, But yeah, but just going back to the whole Ebron and Derek Watt thing, 12 months later, how do you look at those deals right now? And knowing the cap situation we're in right now as well.
What's Ebron's cap hit? Do you know off the top of your head?
Man, I will pull it up in a second.
I think it was around 6, 7. Well, I think it was $6 million a year, right? I don't know if maybe some more of the cap hit takes place this season.
That's what I gotta see.
I like the Ebron one still. I'm still good with it. Like, if you told us whenever we signed him that the year that we got out of him would play out, it was maybe a little bit less than we would have expected, but I thought he played pretty solid.
All right, so are you ready?
Sure.
So in 2020, his cap hit was $3.5 million.
Yeah,
in 2021,
they extended it.
In 2021, that cap hit is $8.5 million. Okay, and they could cut him. And
so it was a
$2.5 million then.
Okay, it was a 2-year, $12 million deal, $6 million a year technically, but they spread it out a little different. Wait, so what if they cut him? They're only on the books for $2 million in dead cap.
2.5.
Oh wow,
2.5 in dead cap.
So that is kind of a smart deal. Then that's a good deal in my opinion, because now they have a decision. I agree. Now they have a decision. What do you do with Ebron? But if you got Ebron for, what was it? You said $3.5 million last year.
Yes,
and then a potential $2 million dead cap hit this year, so around $5-6 million total. Yeah. I would take that for 1 year of Ebron for sure. Yeah. Now the decision is, do we bring him back or not?
Right, and what makes it interesting, obviously, a guy that was recently released from Minnesota, Kyle Rudolph. You look at him and just the basic, and I didn't even want us to get into this conversation like that, but two things that make this so intriguing, right? Just because we're on the topic of this cap situation right now. You look at Eric Ebron, and I think his in terms of catch percentage this year, he was around that 50% mark, right? In terms of targeted passes, he caught 50% of them. You look at Kyle Rudolph this year, and I believe Kyle was up there in the 80s. He was 80%, but throughout his career, he's always been a high 70s, high 80s type of guy. Whereas with Ebron, I think his best year in terms of just catch completion or just catch percentage was in the 60s. I think it was his best time. So when I think of that, I'm like, man, I know Ebron's the better athlete. I know Ebron's going to give me more yards at the catch. I know Ebron gives me the higher ceiling, right? He has a chance to be dynamite, right? Just a beast at the tight end position. But we also know it's 50-50 when you throw him the ball. And we've seen how that can help us at times, but how it's hurt us at times as well. Whereas with Kyle Rudolph, way less from an athletic ability standpoint, but way more shorthanded. Reminds me more of Heath Miller at this stage of his career, knows how to get open, knows how to make tough catches. You get a guy like that potentially right in that same $2.5, $3.5, $4 million range. You ask yourself, all right, well, which one would you rather have in that scenario? So I think like just but basically what I'm trying to get into is we're going to have multiple scenarios where they're going to have tough decisions like this, and they're happening sooner than later because you're sitting at about 10 days before the new league year starts. So you don't have a ton of time to just, drag your feet with this thing. But that's definitely something that they're going to need to consider.
Well, obviously DeCastro too, maybe. Ebron.
Yeah, he's definitely
unless you think he's just locked in, they're not going to mess with him at all. But Derek Watt's another one for sure too. Now that JJ's not here, it's like, come on, bro.
We thought it would work. It didn't work. All right, we don't need you now. All right, so here you go for David DeCastro. Cap hit in 2021 is $14.2 million. If they were to cut him, they're only on the hook for $5.5 million. So you can see already like how they could clean it up a little bit. All right, let's check out my dog Vince, a.k.a. Vince Williams.
Yeah, so you got about probably 3 players on each side.
Yeah, so with Vince, now it makes perfect sense for Vince why he's a big candidate this year and not last year. So both years, last year and this year, he has the same $7 million cap hit. The difference is this. If they cut him last year, they were on the hook for $10 million in dead money. Whereas this year, they're only on the hook for $3 million in dead money if they were to release Vince. All right. And then let's check out Joe Hayden and Steven Nelson as we're going down our capology, right?
Joe Hayden saying no chance.
Yeah, so Joe Hayden, he has a cap hit this year of $15.5 million.
Wow.
If you cut him, you're only on the hook for 2.9.
What?
Okay. Yeah. Because signing bonus, the way it was structured, certain things hit at certain years, so that's why. So last year,
we would get like $13 million in cap space.
Yes,
holy
yes, absolutely.
Shit.
So check this out. So Joe, in his first year of his extension in 19, he had $11 million cap hit. But if they cut him because of the signing bonus, it would have been a $16 million cap hit. And they would have had a $16 million cap hit from dead money standpoint. Then last year, he had 9.6 in cap hit. But if they would have released him last year, his dead money would have been 12.6. That's all signing bonus that they have pushed back for multiple years, right? So now you get to the point where the bulk of his signing bonus is gone in those first 2 years. Now you're only on the hook for 2.9. So that's why you could release him in theory and save the 13 that we were just talking about.
Wow.
And then lastly, we will check Steven Nelson.
So this is the type of stuff I was seeing whenever they restructured Cam Hayward's contract. Because it was very front-loaded in the dead cap over the next year or so. But his last season, if you cut him, it was only like $2 or $3 million.
Yep. So Steven Nelson, he's a little different here because obviously his money is still a little bit newer. But in 2021, he has a cap hit of $14.4 million. If you cut him, you're only on the hook for $6.1 million of that. Now, the previous year, he was on the cap he would have had dead money of 13.2. And then the year before that would have been 7.5.
So it's
you
$8
can
million.
see, obviously, so you can see with him because of the signing bonus and how much larger his was, why it's still a little bit thicker on his, dead cap standpoint than Joe Hayden and some of these other guys.
Damn, that's the biggest reason. Dude, that's a lot of cap space. That's the biggest reason
why. Absolutely. But it's a lot of cap space, but you have to replace those guys with that. So that's the thing you have to ask yourself. By doing such a thing, can you replace Steven Nelson or Joe Hayden? Can you replace Vince Williams? Can you replace this guy or David DeCastro? Because now if you go with David as well, now you're going to be replacing center, right guard, left tackle more than likely. And then you're still going to more than likely have a new left guard because last year it was Matt Fowler predominantly, whereas this year is going to be who? Is going to more than likely be Kevin Dotson. So you can just see from that standpoint how intricate this truly is.
You could play it right, though, for sure. Like if you did DeCastro and then all of a sudden you signed Matt Fowler for like $4 or $5 million, maybe like you could move around this maybe and still have a really solid team, in my opinion. I didn't know those numbers were that lucrative.
But the thing is, how do you view Matt Fowler? Right here, because it benefits from a cap standpoint, now you speak of him highly. Plenty of people had questions about Matt Fowler. So that's my thing. We can't speak of him highly now because it's going to save us money. But when people were actually watching him, people were looking at him a little sideways here. I mean, you were one of the big ones talking about what? Get Kevin Dotson out there.
Dotson in. I never said at the expense of anyone in particular. I just wanted Dotson there.
That's what it meant, though, because you weren't taking out DeCastro, right? So it was either.
Well, you laid it out to me. You laid it out to me. DeCastro wasn't playing too hot, so I was willing at that point.
I was, you know how my vibe was. I just look at the tape. I take the feelings out of it because obviously I got personal relationships with all of them. But I just look at the tape, and the tape showed me that one guy was playing really well, or actually two of those guys were playing really well. One wasn't. One got paid a lot more. One was a fan favorite, so we handled it differently. But that's my big thing right now. I want to see the people that are when that number is talked about a little bit more, how people start to look at Dotson and Fowler a lot more favorably now compared to how they look at DeCastro because of how much money they can save from a cap standpoint. Your tone
fair.
right now, just think about within this conversation, your tone changed drastically when you heard how much we could save if we were to make that move with DeCastro. It was like,
no, but
hey,
to be honest with you, though, you're 100.
JC can play guard too. Now that I think about it, that's what I was waiting on you to say.
No, you're right, though. We still have to replace these guys, but
yes.
I don't know. What are you expecting Fowler to make? We thought it was going to be maybe 5, 6.
Yes.
And
I think
go ahead.
The same deal. Think about what BJ Finney got a year ago to go to was it Seattle, right? It was like 2 for 12 or something like it. I would say it was something in that range, right? 2 for 10, 2 for 12, something along those lines. I can see Matt Fowler being in a similar boat, $5-6 million a year, because the thing is he's good at both spots, right? But not great at any spot. Meaning you could play him at right tackle, you could play him at guard, whether it's left or right guard. Can get the job done. Very serviceable. He's always going to be above the line. It's never going to be all pro level, though. Or at least we haven't seen that it would be all pro level. But you know you can win with this guy. So if I'm a team like the Steelers, that's the prime example of some of the things that I would try to do in terms of building the roster around Ben while still being able to cut some of these corners financially. He is a guy that you can win with. You're not going to get the superstars. You're not going to get, he's a former pro, but that's a former pro. You're not going to get a ton of those guys based on the money that we have. But guys like Matt can come in and be a bridge guy for a year or two. You know what I mean? Until you find that next guy you want to draft or that guy that you want to pay when your money gets a little bit better. So you can definitely work like that. I mean, myself, I was a person like that where, you can bring this guy in for the cheap where he's going to be able to be serviceable. He can start out here. He's going to make plays for you. But you know that he's not the quote unquote all pro stalwart $100 million guy. Matt's not that, but Matt can definitely help you win games. So the Steelers definitely got a decision to make with that. But if you're Matt Fowler, you got to also know that, hey, if they do make that move with DeCastro, my leverage now increases drastically.
Yeah,
so
they really need
might
you.
Increase.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And you'd rather bring in Fowler than anyone else.
Yes. So you know that if you're Matt, that's going to be a big standpoint from a leverage perspective. For me, it worked out because Jason Worlds retired, right? So Jason Worlds retires. Debo had came out of retirement for a year, but remember, he was still on the fence if he was going to go back into retirement. So from there, when the negotiation started, it was like, all right, I got a lot more leverage now. I know what you're looking at. I know what the cupboard looks like. And I know you don't want to go out and have to pay a little bit more where, you're going to get the same level of productivity anyways. So if you're Matt Fowler, you got to take that same approach, man. Get what you can get.
Dude, this is interesting. This is going to be interesting then. How many... Yeah. We have, 2 weeks then to see all this play out?
Essentially, yeah. Yeah, essentially. Because, like I said, it's going to be happening from here up until, I don't even want to wait. It's not even going to wait until the 15th because you have the legal tampering period that's going to take place from a free agency standpoint 2 days prior to free agency opening. So most of your teams are going to have those numbers in compliance then because that's typically when you're able to agree in principle to deals that you're going to be signing with some of these free agents, not even the high end guys, just your regular guys as well. So you're going to want to have those numbers in accordance by that time. So could honestly happen sooner than that, man.
How do you think the Steelers play it with Joe Hayden and maybe even Steven Nelson? Because he seems really adamant. He said it on Twitter that, I'm not getting cut. Do you think maybe the Steelers and those two at cornerback will actually work out some type of deal restructuring? Because if you're the cornerback too, like Joe Hayden or Steven Nelson, I don't know how big the market's going to be this year because of how the salary cap is. Mm-hmm. So it might just be wise to stick around here, maybe take a little bit of a pay cut. You extend that over however many more years.
Yeah, I mean, that is an approach that they could definitely take, more so with Joe because he's made a ton more money throughout his career. From my experiences, the guys that have made a lot of money, whether it was early in their career or through the middle part of their career, they're a lot more open to taking less to stay. They're a lot more open to those type of things. For the younger guys that typically haven't seen the money that Joe Hayden has seen. They haven't seen the money that Ben Roethlisberger has seen. They're not as prone to doing that. So that's my only thing with that. I do think, honestly, though, that Joe Hayden is safe just because of his play. When we watched both Joe and Steven these past 2 years, we thought that Joe played at a high level both of these years. We said that Steven Nelson pushed him to see who was the better corner 2 years ago, but we felt last year that Steven kind of tapered down, whereas Joe was still being who he was. So understanding that, I think Steven is more so the candidate than Joe. But I also think that Vince is a big-time candidate because of those numbers that we just read off, and knowing that they at least have some type of insurance in place, knowing that Devin Bush is coming back, knowing that you could bring back Robert Spillane very, very cheap. So I think that...
And he played good when he was healthy. Like, that doesn't seem like a bad idea for a tandem coming up this year.
Yeah, very true, but that's the big thing surrounding why I could definitely see the scenario where Vince becomes, a cap casualty. Now, DeCastro, that's the big one. That's the one where you really see what this team is trying to do. I think if they move on from DeCastro, I think that we're definitely going to start seeing, them next year making that full overhaul of, look, we're rebuilt. Like, this is it. All right, that we're done with that. If they bring DeCastro back, it makes me think a little bit more about what you were saying earlier, that, hey, maybe they'll try to do something to bring Ben back potentially. Maybe they'll do something like that. Just because from a money standpoint, that's still a ton of money tied up. And if he's not playing up to par, you could just see what it looks like. So that's my thing with that, man.
He's going to be interesting next year, huh? Because
very interesting.
Is it just a down year? He was hurt at the beginning of the season, and we know how good he's been throughout his career. Will he have a bounce back? Because that's a lot of money. That is definitely a lot of money. If we're saying Filer at this point, based off last year, is a little bit better than DeCastro, 14, 15 million versus maybe 5 or 6, that could be a pretty big deal.
Or are we saying that Kevin Dotson right now is better than DeCastro? Because either way, and those are but this is my thing. If both of those guys are the starters, if it's Filer and Dotson, you're simply saying that one of those guys or both of those guys are better than David DeCastro. That's my thing. Are you ready off of the small sample size that we saw from Dotson? Now, granted, it was very impressive, but it was still a small sample size. How confident are you going forward that can be the guy? How confident are you going forward that Matt can continue to be the guy at guard? Or do you want to move him? Those are the things that they're going to have to, address right now. And I'm just glad, like I said, that we don't have to play Kevin Colbert. We could play Kevin Colbert, but we don't have to be Kevin Colbert, if that makes sense. So, yes.
I don't know. I think a lot of people would love it. At the same time, I don't know if they can handle the criticism.
Hey, right. And not only the criticism, what happens when you're not actually successful at it? That's the other part.
So, do you have anything more on the Steelers? I guess I had one more topic that had to relate to all this.
Yeah, what you got, man?
Juju. I mean, dude, he seems like he really wants to come back. NFL dropped the picture on Instagram that Steelers are re-signing Big Ben, and I don't know if you saw it. He commented saying like, "Oh man, this is awesome." Put a little emoji with it, and then said, "Yo, let's talk now." So I don't know. It seems I don't know if we've talked about this in the past.
I even saw because a week ago, Zach Banner had said, I'm getting off of social media until my contract gets done with the Steelers." And Juju was like, "Oh, I wish I could get a contract."
You think he's doing the PR
Juju
thing?
Wants to stay. This is my thing. If Juju wants to stay for less money, go for it. I don't recommend it, but go for it. I'm sure people will say, "Well, hey, man, money's not all that matters." All right, cool. To each his own. Go for it. I'm here to help players make money. If they want to take less money, cool. That doesn't affect my pocket at all. So if Juju somehow, some way wants to come back for way less than his market value, cool. But we've seen how, just think about his 4 years here. Imagine if 4 years ago he had took less to come here. Just think about how quickly Steel Nation turned on him. Let's be real about it. The first 2 years where AB was there, they loved him, spoke highly of him, couldn't say a negative thing. Year 3 and year 4, we saw the tone. We saw people viewed him. We saw people talked about him. You taking less money, just remember, that's a part of it as well. So you want to take less money to deal with that as well? To each his own. Me personally, I'm not doing it. But he's different. So he could be, all for that thing. If he is, it's great to have him back. But like I said, from my perspective and from the guys that I've talked to throughout this process that have done similar things, typically guys aren't taking that much less to come back to wherever they were at. That's all I'm saying.
He has talked about some of the former Steelers that have left here, and it's just the grass on the other side isn't necessarily greener. So I don't know. It's interesting because there is the whole side that you're saying that, bro, just get as much money as you can, man. You only have a certain amount of window to get amount of money. But if your priorities are a little bit different and you want to play here for the Steelers in Pittsburgh, then I don't know, dude. I don't know if he's just doing the whole PR thing right now or if he really wants to come back. It seems like he does want to come back.
Listen, for me, I'm never going to judge his motives. I mean, we could easily sit here and be like, well, he does a lot of PR, so maybe this is PR. Maybe he truly is genuine. Either way, he's saying what he's supposed to say. He's saying the right things. But to me, I just look at it like damage control. It's kind of like when you know I'm about to say something disrespectful to you, what's the first thing you say? Hey, with all due respect. Oh, man. Or you know you're going to critique him, or you compliment him first, right? I love your eyes, but, yo, what's up with these shoes? You know what I mean? Like, so what I feel like is happening is like Juju's building me up this, man, I want to come back. God, I love Pittsburgh. Steelers Nation. This is home. Man, I don't want to be anywhere else. But they offered me $50 million. I mean, what did you expect? You know what I mean? Like, I feel like that's how it's going to be, personally. But, hey, we could be surprised. I hope we are.
Yeah, I wonder if he could start going like the NBA route even. A 2-year deal with the Steelers. I don't know. You can't do like 1-and-1s though, right? Where a player has an opt out.
No. You can, but the problem is this: NBA. What are the injury risks? The percentages of getting injured on a 1-year or 2-year deal are drastically lower. That's why the NBA players they do and they're able to move frequently. The reason why football contracts are of the longer nature, especially the bigger money contracts, so that way if an injury does happen, number one, the player is covered. But number two, if the big thing is to keep the player covered, because otherwise, you play that 1-year deal, you got hurt. I don't have to sign you back for nowhere near the money. You think about what happened to Isaiah Thomas from a basketball standpoint. That was the negative side of it, right? Take the 1 years, and now he got bit in the butt. Probably never going to see the money that he could have got if he would have took a long-term deal during that time. In football, that happens a lot more just because of how high risk of an injury the sport is. I mean, it's 100% injury rate. You're going to get hurt if you play football. It just depends on to what extent. We obviously saw the extreme once again with a guy on a 1-year or franchise tag in terms of Dak Prescott. We already highlighted Bud Dupree. These are all prime examples of, all right, take the 1 year or, okay, you're on the franchise tag. This happens, though. It happens
There's definitely
a lot.
risk,
so you got to be careful with it, man. Absolutely got to be careful with it. To me, the whole grass is greener or not greener on the other side of the fence. If you want to ask guys like William Gay and Will Allen, was the grass greener? Sure, they're going to say no because, number one, financially, it was nowhere near the same standpoint, but obviously they had bad situations. But you go ask Javon Hargrave, who signed that contract that he signed last year, if the grass is green. Do you think he cares to that extent what the Eagles did from a record standpoint when that man just signed for how many millions guaranteed up front? As much as we could make it to steal away. Oh, people want to play for the jersey. I get you on all of that. But at the end of the day, that jersey isn't paying bills once you're done playing. That jersey isn't sending your kids to college. That jersey isn't setting up your grandchildren. These contracts are. So,
no, dude, you're 100% right.
Take it, but
you're 100% right with all that.
That's what it boils down to. It is a job. It is your profession. Now, we are very passionate about it and we love it. But it still is what provides you the means to have this nice lifestyle.
I agree. You're 100% right.
Yeah.
It just seems with everything Juju has done over the past month, even some of these past couple weeks, that he really genuinely wants to stay. That's what's interesting to me.
Yeah.
So we'll see if it happens because we've talked about just like the discrepancy of potential millions that you could be leaving on the table staying here. But
absolutely.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how it plays out.
And I do think he genuinely does want to stay. I don't want people to think that that's what I'm talking about when I'm speaking on why he probably will leave. It's not that he doesn't love Steelers. I think he loves being a Pittsburgh Steelers. I think he loves Steelers Nation. The difference, though, is when you're talking about the compensation that goes with this, because it's not like we play this game for free. We don't. I mean, trust me, there's plenty of people out here. If you want to play the game I play the game free. I play the game free. Everyone says it until it's contract time. Juju could come back easily if he genuinely, to that standpoint, wanted to be back. Let's be real about it. He could easily do that. But it's not the case because of the numbers. The numbers matter. If the numbers didn't matter, he would have signed a deal for the minimum for the next 3 years, right? He would sign a 10-year Juju minimum level contract and he'll be satisfied, right? Because he just only wants to play in Pittsburgh. But that's not the case because the money is a factor. So that's why, to me, as much as people say, well, man, the money doesn't matter, it does. We saw who? J.J. Watt, for a prime example. He's a guy who's seen a ton of money. In the end, the money mattered. I don't think this situation is going to be any different personally, man.
Okay, interesting. What else we got?
Can we talk a little hockey? Is it hockey?
For sure.
Can we go a little hockey?
For sure.
I would love to talk a little hockey. I know you're my hockey guy now all of a sudden. I love it. I love when you get down with your hockey, baby. Yes, indeed. But man, we had good news. Well, good and bad news as it pertains to the Pens. Obviously, they won. Was it have been Tuesday? I believe it was. They started out their first of a three-game stretch against the Flyers. And obviously the Flyers had beat them the first 2 times earlier at the season, right? Swept their series then. So it was good to see the Pens respond in a big way, especially coming off of a loss they had just had the other night against the Islanders. But prior to the game, the reason why it was so intriguing was because Sidney Crosby got added to the COVID list. Now, they didn't say if he tested positive or not, but he had to miss the game because of that. And we know that Sid, he's their best player. He gets that team going. But to see them respond the way they did against a very tough and hot Philadelphia Flyers team was very impressive, man. And shout out to your boy Jari.
Bro,
Jari he's doing his thing.
He's balling out.
Absolutely, man.
In my opinion, he's definitely been the X factor over some of these games. In that Flyers game, they outshot us by like 12 or 13. And they had a fair amount of chances.
Saves.
They really did. I know we had our chances. We just capitalized on them really well.
Yes.
But Flyers, make no mistake, I thought they still played that game pretty good. They just, for whatever reason, didn't capitalize like we did. And I think a large part of that was due to Jari. He's balling out, man. He's had a couple games like this where the other team will get like high 30s, 40 shots, and then he'll save all but like 1 or 2 and keep us in the game.
Absolutely, man. He looked good. And another person that stepped up, obviously, Kasperi Kapanen, he balled out. He got the 2 goals, got the scoring started for the Pens. But Malkin came back to life as well. And it was funny. I was doing one of my other radio shows, and we were talking about Malkin in games where Sid isn't out there. We were just saying from a betting standpoint that's the game you want to bet on him to either have a goal or a point in some fashion because he just always seems to play better when Sid isn't in the lineup. And we saw Malkin, man, he stepped up in a big way to help this team once again produce that element, man, to get that scoring going in that second period, man. So it was good to see that from him also.
I'm a little concerned about the defense. I still am, but Jari's playing really good where he's making up for it.
Listen, as long as Jari plays like that, who needs defense, man?
Yeah, I don't know if he has a shutout yet. I don't think he does.
No, yeah.
I think that Smith has one, but he's had some really good games like this. And it seems like he's got confidence. That's what it is. Like, I know at the beginning of the season, he was letting up some bad ones, and they weren't completely his fault either because I think the defense was way worse.
Yeah, absolutely.
It didn't seem like he has the confidence that he has right now. He's on some type of roll.
No, without a doubt, man. And not only is he playing a lot better, but he's doing it in the midst of the inconsistent play from a power play standpoint, special teams wise, right? When they're on the power play and when they have to kill the power plays, he's been the consistent one because we know how wacky it's been. Obviously, the other day they were able to score on a power play, right? Kapanen got that goal. But for the majority of the time, majority of the season, that's been still the worst part of their game. I mean, you take it back to the game against the Islanders, they were trying to sit out there on the power plays and some other different lineup changes. They tried to just spark it, and it never really, came to anything from a productivity standpoint. It still was a bunch of the same old. So hopefully they can improve that element because I think if they do that, that'll help Jari out even more, in terms of his goaltending.
They got to do everything right. I'm looking at these standings, dude. I'm still a little bit nervous. It's going to be four out of 5 good teams that make the playoffs. And so the Penguins need to play pretty much damn near perfect here on out.
Yes, man.
There's not too many games left. I mean, there are, I guess, compared to what we have played, but still, just in general, compared to
It's
a normal
condensed
season.
Yep. So it's going to be interesting just to see how they respond to that. Now, obviously, they got the game tonight, so it's be good to see if they can go ahead and get 2 in a row against this Flyers team, because the more opportunities you get like this, especially to get these points, all the points in regulation, is huge. Huge when it comes time for that playoff stuff. So I'm going to be excited to see, man, how the boys respond tonight, man.
Dude, you're right. Overtime wins aren't going to cut it anymore because the other team's going to get a point, especially if we're playing. We're going to be constantly playing for these other teams that are in the mix. We got to win in regulation. As dumb as it sounds, a win's a win, but damn.
Right, but it's different because if this is football, if this is basketball, a win is a win because you don't get docked a point by winning in regulation or overtime. When it comes to hockey, though, now both teams get points come overtime, and that hurts you. You know what I mean? Whereas in basketball or football, man, once I get that W on my column, I don't have to worry about, because I went to overtime, you getting a W as well. No, you're getting a loss. So it's that simple. But that's the big thing right now, why they have to start winning in regulation, because I think they have 9 overtime games thus far, and they've won 7 of their.
Yeah, they've been incredible in overtime.
They're 7. They're either 7-2 or 8-1 in overtime right now. So you can see that's a ton of overtime already. But you got to think about the points that you're leaving out there by constantly going into overtime as well. So we'll see if they can get that square, though, man.
We can say this, though. A fair amount of this probably should have been losses anyway. So we were playing with house money.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We know how janky we were early on. Come on now, baby.
So it was amazing to get the overtime win. So let's not discredit it too much. But at the same time, going forward, because of how correlated all these teams are that we're playing, it's not like we're just randomly playing some team out west or in another division where just getting to overtime is a win, how it's always been throughout the NHL. But now, with how everything's set up, all these teams are so correlated that, damn, you really do got to win in regular time.
And you're playing the same team 2 games at a time, 3 games at a time. So it's like you said, it just keeps adding up, and they're in the division. So we shall see, though. We shall see. I'm excited about it either way.
Yeah, game tonight. Crosby's out again, though.
I know. But at least we're getting these games played. Because with the NHL, with them not really releasing information on if he was positive, if it was a close contact, they never really say who else was affected or not affected. For a while, a lot of people were skeptical that, the game would even be played, or that more names that started to come out from that scenario, because they were just on a road trip as well. And we know on the road, these guys have to be in close proximity with one another. So it was good to see that nobody new was added to the list. And at least for this game right here, continues to be nobody new added to that list. So hopefully Sid is good and he'll be recovering and be back out there, in a timely manner.
Definitely.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, what else got, man? Anything else? I'm trying to think.
Hot topics or anything? I got nothing. TJ McConnell, Whippeal legend, dropped 10 steal triple-double yesterday, though.
Ooh, get filthy one time, TJ.
It came out of nowhere. Dude, I watched this. I couldn't believe it. Dude, he had 4 steals within a minute and a half. I'm not kidding you. It was absurd.
That's nuts, bro. Shout out to TJ then, man. I like it.
Yeah, outside of that, no other big news.
Okay. I could dig it. Yeah, because we got March Madness about to start back up. No, March Madness about to start back up soon. So ACC tournament time. We'll see what
Pitt has looked terrible. They looked good beginning of the season. Now they're bad.
They did have a stretch. They went through a stretch, and now the big question is, if you're Justin Champagnie, you coming back, you transferring, you going to the league, what you want to do here? You know what I mean? That's gonna be the question surrounding him right now, man.
Yeah. It's unfortunate. I was hoping for Pitt Hoops to return to glory, but it's not looking like it right now.
But I like how you still got your steam going though, baby. I'm tuning in. I like it. Keep it rolling.
No, I'll be honest with you. I haven't tuned in. It was just like Pitt football, man. We were 3-0, 4-0 at the beginning of last season. I watched every game. I was so excited. Kenny Pickett for Heisman. Then we start losing. Then I tail off.
I was laughing at, I think it was one of the most recent ones. You were like, I'm not gonna lie. I didn't watch the game. We're about to watch this live right now. He's like, why is he in? I don't know where he's at. Come on, has he got fouls? Oh, all right, that's what's happening. I was like, all right, cool. But either way, it was a dope vibe, though.
Wait, what are you talking about?
Oh my goodness, it was one of the ones you were talking about. Pitt basketball. I think they were playing Tech, maybe. Yeah, but it had me dying. I was like, all right, Deke, shout out.
For sure.
Yes, indeed. So shoot, man. that was dope. That was fun. We got to talk the Pens, but more importantly, your boy 7 will be back in 2021.
7 is back.
So,
let's go.
With that being said, man, shout out to everybody that's been tuning in. Appreciate everybody for following the journey. And until next time,
Peace.